Gap's not changing much at the moment. 3:45. It's hovering about that mark now. Under 30 kilometers to go in this stage 17 of the Giro d'Italia. This looks like it's going to be an interesting finish, actually. It was interesting yesterday to watch Alberto Contador and his particular style. Looked so slow compared to everybody else, but there we are. He won the stage. And Rouhanu was good, but in general, time trials are not the easiest thing to commentate on. This looks like it's going to be a little bit more of an interesting finish here. I still have no idea why Geox were pushing on at the front, but they have now departed from the front, and it's Liquigas once again. Vincenzo Nibali is the last man in the Liquigas line in front of Michele Scarponi, who's wearing the points leader's jersey. Dennis Van Winden is the man you're looking at the back for Rabobank. He's had a good Giro d'Italia. I think he's got more things to come. He had talking to the Ras, Sean, he was in a very long break with Cassidy a couple of years ago.
Yes, in the Tour of Ireland.
Oh, Tour of Ireland, yes, sorry, yes.
2 years ago he was in a long breakaway down in the south of Ireland and was unfortunately pulled in the final 20 kilometres. But yeah, he's an up-and-coming rider that came through the Rabobank development, and as there's many riders here in the Rabobank team which come through the development squad of Rabobank.
This is Hubert Dupont and Jan Beckelands now going for it. Dupont, as we said earlier, having a very consistent, very good Giro d'Italia. And Konstantin Svitsov is onto that one. Nobody's really made the huge attack yet. It's a bit difficult to do so, really. It's quite fast. The pace is high enough to keep it difficult. Pablo Lastas comes to the front. They're still looking at each other, Sean. Somebody will give it a little bit of a surge forwards and then look at somebody else. Nobody's made that decisive move yet.
No, and they're being pushed in to try and make the moves because of the advantage coming down quickly. Normally, if they had, a nice advantage of 6 minutes, 7 minutes, they wouldn't be concerned here. They'd be still riding and wait for the final climb for the steeper sections, and then you could do a lot of damage if you're still, in good shape. You could really blow this breakaway apart, and but they haven't got the time to do that. They have to get on with it here, and unfortunately Liquigas, taking it up very early, the gap coming down rapidly, and that's the reason we can see a lot of urgency in the breakaway at the moment.
28 kilometers, 3:37 the break. The men in the break once again: Lemavelle of Garmin Cervelo, Visconti of Farnese Vini, Jan Beckelands of Omega Pharma Lotto, Robert Kieselowski of Astana, Konstantin Svitsov of HTC High Road, Jesus Fernandez of the Saxo Bank squad, Pablo Lastras of Movistar, Diego Ulisi of Lampre, Edvard Voganov and Roberto Lozada of Katusha, Ben Gastauer of AG2R, Matthias Frank of BMC, Tabore of Aqua Sapone, and Hubert Dupont of AG2R. Visconti wanting to get people still working together here. Not satisfied with attacking. Well, that's all very well for him to say. He was the one who did it first. Ooh, that is a big surge. Svitsov. It is, I think. It is Konstantin Svitsov who's just nailed it off the front, and Dupont trying to chase him down and just about managing. Now it's game on. Svitsov tries to test everybody's legs, pulls over and he gets caught, and see if somebody else will take up the charge. Wait for another ambushing attempt. Well, out of these riders here, Beckelands is very aggressive, but he seems to be suffering a little bit. I would not be surprised if we saw Lastras or Diego Ulisi have a real crack at this a little bit later on. Svitsov is clearly very, very aggressive at the moment. This is back with the peloton though. Nibali instructing the Gregarios on what to do. And sitting behind him in the red points leader's jersey is Michele Scarponi. They're all shadowing each other. Is it just a race for second? A lot of people asking the question. I would have said it might have been a couple of days ago, 2 or 3 days ago, but I think that Vincenzo Nibali wants a little bit more than just to wait and see what happens if he gets second. The gap has grown out just a little bit, Sean. They've managed to stabilise it, now looking a little bit more healthy for the breakaway if they stop messing about.
Yes, and we can see there Nibali talking to a teammate, and it looks like that they're working out a tactic, and love to know what the tactic is. And I think they're saying, well, we're not going to catch these guys, 350, 355, and I think they're getting, that report back there in the front end of the bunch, and who is going to be the winner of the stage. An interesting one. Will it be another Spanish win? And we have 3 Spaniards I make out here. Hernandez from Saxo Bank, we have Lastras from Movistar, and Lozada from Katusha. So 6 Spanish victories already in this race. Will it be another one today?
They are the most successful nation in the Giro d'Italia so far. They are more successful than the Italians. Much to the chagrin of the Italian press, one has to say. But a lot of those victories...
The Italians, how many have they got in this one?
Ooh.
2.
No, a bit more than that. Oscar Gatto.
Pataki.
Pinotti.
Ah, yes.
Do you count the team time trial?
No.
No? Oh, well, never mind.
2. Same as the Isle of Man with Cavendish.
That's cruel.
2 for the Isle of Man.
1 for Venezuela. 1 for France. 1 for Belgium with de Klerk. 1 for Holland, Peter Diening. So yes, Isle of Man, Italy tied for superstar status in cycling for the Spanish by a country mile. The best nation in this year's Giro d'Italia. 3:57 with 25 kilometres to go. 40 kilometres an hour average race speed. And
41. Are they?
Oh, 41.
40.916.
All right.
We rounded off 41.
All right, give them the benefit.
It's like our training rides when we do 40 kilometres. We say, or 42 or 3. We say, well, that was 50.
Almost 50. Yes, the great man for that is Rolf Sorensen, of course. When he, I have witnessed him at the Paris-Nice race a couple of years ago, speaking to a journalist, and the journalist says, how far did you go? Oh, I did 30 or 40 kilometres. And then, this is the attack of Svitsov, just going away again, and Hubert Dupont going after him, and Visconti still waiting. He's playing a canny game, Visconti. And then Sorensen would say to the next journalist, I did 50 or 60, and then he'd say, I did 70 or 80.
Well, I think
depends who you're talking to, really.
We all do it a little bit at times, and
sure.
I think...
I did a lot.
Yes, I think last year on the Tour of France, you a few times as well, when you went out there, when I dropped you off, it was
that's true.
60 to go, you came on air and you said, well, I did about 70k to
that's right,
75k,
well,
so there was a 10 or 15 of a difference there.
Yeah, it's got to be done. It's all part of the game.
It's the feel good, the morale.
Thanks for that. 3:55 is the gap. It is looking pretty good for the breakaway now. There's a bigger game afoot for Liquigas, though, as they possibly trying to put Alberto Contador under pressure. Are they worried about Michele Scarponi here?
No, I don't think Scarponi is going to do a lot today. This climb with the descent, I don't think Scarponi would really want to take the risk. There's better days for him, and I think Siestier is a one where he's talking about a lot, and the mountaintop finish, I think, is where Scarponi, if he has anything left in the tank, he will try and pull out an advantage, and they'll be calculating the final time trial, what he can do, and if he can keep enough of an advantage over Nibali, as we see Dupont going the attack again, and it's really aggressive up here, and if you're suffering here in this breakaway with these attacks, you're going to get a terrible torturing time here trying to stay in this breakaway.
This is a bit more purposeful from Hubert Dupont. Nobody's reacted to that yet. Here comes Lastras and here comes Tabore. both of whom I think we'd said are liable to be a little bit dangerous. And Ben Gastar, I think, the Luxembourg rider, looks like he's coming across here. That's interesting.
What is that, six?
Well, he's got a man just ahead of him in Hubert Dupont. I am slightly fascinated by the tactics of Svitsov coming across. Here's Svitsov. Although I have been, which doesn't take anything away from the point, I've been slightly fascinated by the tactics of AG2R, where they've had two men capable of doing good rides in the mountains, Hubert Dupont and Jean Gadret, and they all seem to be working individually rather than together. Lastras now chasing Matthias Frank, the Swiss rider. Well, he's trying as hard as he can. He's not going to get anywhere, I don't think. There's a lot of men want this victory, Sean, a lot of them in this group.
Yes, and days running out, and of course, you know, they're thinking here, this is the occasion. 3:38 at the moment. They know now that they're going to stay away, they're going to hold off the bunch, and they're thinking, well, this is our occasion. We've committed into the successful break, the break of the day, and if you have got if you've got the legs here, you're feeling in good shape, you have to really give it everything here, because there is going to be a moment when somebody go away, a little bit of, you know, tactic, watching each other, and somebody will just pull out an advantage. Will it be one or two riders, three riders, but certainly it's going to happen with all this aggressive attacking.
Blimey, Hubert. Another attack by Hubert Dupont. And Matthias Frank working up to his right. Konstantin Svitsov is looking very strong here. He put an enormous attack in earlier, and he's been able to just sit in the saddle fairly steadily and close that gap. Robert Kieselowski is the man from Astana on the pedals there. Standing on the pedals just behind Svitsov's shoulder. Kugas still with 1, 2, 3 men on the front, and Geox have once again joined the front group here, Sean, and still, this Marcel Wyss is the rider. Wyss was very, very good in Tour of Romandy, and I don't know, maybe they feel something is in there for them today.
Hard to see which one is going to do it, but again, they have some tactic. They're not up here just to ride on the front. And you know, 22 kilometers to go. The summit of the climb, I think, is around the 18 kilometers from the finish. So we're getting to the point, 18.5 exactly, from the pre-cat climb, and it's going to be an interesting one. Liquigas have done a lot of work, and they have to try something here. The stage victory out of the reach, but they're going to really try and put Contador under pressure on the descent.
Lastras is just about to chase after Konstantin Svitsov, and has Hubert Dupont got much left in the tank, one has to ask. 3 times he's gone already, mind you, so has Svitsov, but for the two riders, I think he looks a little stronger. It's a bit difficult to tell because Dupont's got the most ungainly style of riding compared to Svitsov, and it can be very, very deceptive, Sean, can't it? If somebody's waving the bike around and hunched over the bars, as opposed to a very smooth looking rider, they can still be giving as much effort, just one looks like he isn't.
Yes, giving as much effort and looking like they're struggling more when they have that style where they're bobbing a bit, where Svitsov, he just sits there and powers that big gear, looks very impressive, but it doesn't mean that he's, you know, stronger or in better shape than Hubert Dupont or Lastras for that matter.
Lastras, very, very strong rider. Still, nobody has made the complete move here. Hubert Dupont blowing hard now. Visconti, I think Visconti has wisely decided to let the others do most of the work. Wait. He is one of those riders, Sean, sometimes looks as though he might be... When he blows completely. But if he's just lurking in a group like this, he's very dangerous.
Yes, and there is quite a few here, I suppose. Work or maybe just allow the other riders to kill themselves off with this attacking, and Sitsov is the one with Dupont who are doing a lot of aggressive riding here, attacking each other, closing down each other, and a number of riders sitting here waiting. And we see the guy from Saxo Bank. He hasn't shown himself. There's quite a few riders in here who are just sitting and playing the waiting game. It is a risky one because it could split. It could 3 or 4 riders go off the front of this group, and then you'd find yourself left behind and miss the move. But if you go on the attack here and keep on attacking, it doesn't work out. Well, then you're going to pay as well, because all of that effort you're certainly going to pay for in the end. So it could be a case where the guy plays the tactic, just sit in and play the waiting game, and when we get on the steeper part of the climb, and there is sections here which is quite steep on the final climb, we will see some of these riders exploding after the efforts they're making.
Look at Dupont. He wants this one. He really wants this one, and Borre's gone with him this time. Now Visconti gets onto the wheel. You cannot take anything away from Dupont. He is really after it today, but it's still not going to stick. Not a big enough attack. They're going to slow to a crawl in a minute, all waiting for each other to do something. Paolo Tirolongo is the rider from Astana, sitting ahead of Romain Kreuziger there. He's lost one of his climbing domestiques. Mascarelli has been forced to withdraw thanks to injuries that he sustained on Friday on the Grossglockner stage when a car door was opened on him. He's returning to the bus, just one of those freak accidents. Clearly the driver of the car not looking what was behind him. I wasn't expecting him to come down the hill, I would think, behind him, and that's what happened. Oh, Konstantin Svitsov. Now Jesus Fernandez getting in the wheel. Gosh, he closed that gap easily.
And this group has really reduced in numbers. 9 riders I reckon we have here, so a lot of riders losing contact. I'm not surprised with this, just attack constantly, and as we see Lastras going on again, and it's just going to continue until the elastic break.
Yep, Lastras and Visconti. Now, Visconti looks over the shoulder to see who is going to close that gap. Surely somebody is going to try and get across. Sure. There's Lastras going to sing the repeat. Oh, and Visconti was quickly onto that one. Just the two of them. Nobody's closed the gap yet. That's interesting. Into Africa they are now. This is the descent they're going to have to really work hard on now, as Visconti takes over at the front, and Lastras always having trouble just getting onto the wheel of Visconti there. This looks a little bit better. Oh, Kieselowski out the back door, as has Dupont. He's just blown to bits now. That's just a replay of the King of the Mountains. And the number of riders dropped off the back now. Hubert Dupont, Matthias Frank. A lot of the riders who do the work a little bit too early, Sean. They just haven't got the legs anymore.
No, well, Dupont, I'm not surprised. He looked so aggressive in the way he was closing down attacks and attacking himself. He's paid the price. And the riders which have been maybe playing that waiting game in a good position at the moment. But again, this climb at the percentage not really big, but the way they've been going at it, it's amazing with the speed they have climbed this one, and now it's just the descent, and it's going to be a spectacular final out in front. And what are we going to see from the main bunch and from the liquid gases especially?
Jose Serpa, or as they can insist on calling him here, Jose Rodolfo Serpa, looking after Jose Rohanu. Gastar and Tosada just blown out the back of the breakaway. Alberto Contador in the middle of the shot in the pink jersey. Behind him, the Mountains classification jersey of Stefano Garzelli. Ahead of him, it's Scarponi. Christophe Lemavelle, it's a lonely road by himself now. but he could improve his overall position, or certainly improve his time in the overall position. So Nevegal has had a very good Giro d'Italia. Paolo Tirolongo leads the peloton now, and Roman Kreuziger clearly just wanting to keep out of trouble. You saw the 20 kilometre to go banner the peloton went through. That is why all the soigneurs were standing on the far side of the road, and people can then go and grab a bidon if they need to. That is the last point in a race that you can get any food or drink 20 kilometres. Unless the commissaires decide that there's a special case that's exceptionally hot. It's a frantic chase by Matthias Frank here. This descent is pretty technical as we get a bit further down. This is the easy bit, Sean, and some of these riders will have trouble chasing on once we get to the very twisty stuff.
Well, they're having trouble already, as we can see there on that straight. Just 10-20 metres of a gap, difficult to close down.
Interesting to see the riders from Androni coming to the front. I think there's a lot of worry from some of the bigger name riders about whether they can keep themselves out of trouble. 3:39 is the gap. It's clear that the breakaway will succeed today, and they've known that for about 15 kilometres now, and for the last 10 of those they've just been trying to knock great big chunks out of each other. And they're still riding at a reasonable pace at the front here, but nothing like the breakaway who were going through absolutely Harry Flatters. 3:34, back to the pink jersey. Nobody in the front group is going to challenge Alberto Contador's position today. And a lot of bunching up at the front there, Sean. They've just slowed right down.
Yes, they have slowed down a bit. We can see the way they're grouping up again, and I think it's the calm before the storm. We see a lot of teams there and riders looking a bit nervous, trying to stay up front, and they know that as we get further down the climb here, it gets a bit more technical, and that is the point where there could be an attack from Nibali and the liquid gas. They have been preparing it, and we can see here in the breakaway going very fast at the moment, but it seems to be all back together again.
Yeah, it does, yeah, pretty much.
We have about 9 or maybe 10 or a bit more riders. We've lost a few, and I think Nevegal has lost contact.
Yes.
I'm not sure if he got in here, but he was a bit behind at that final climb, and I doubt if he made it back into that leading break.
I think Gastão and Losada are also have lost contact, as well as Nevegal, who was by himself, but we will see a little bit more when we get a good shot overhead of the breakaway riders, who are now on the more technical section here in the descent of Aprica down towards Tirano. This is going to be interesting what happens in the peloton here. Liquid Gas have to try something now. This is the escape group then. It gets very technical as we get further down here. Very, very full of switchbacks and tight turns. This is Nevegal here at the front, or is it Lastras? Difficult to tell. Christophe Nevegal at 140 on the leading group here on the road, so it's clearly not back in. My God, they're going for it. Still the faster section here. And people say that bike racing isn't dangerous. We saw what happened earlier in this Giro d'Italia, and they still want to win. They still want to go for it. Lastras leads them down with Bakelans, is it in second spot? Yes, it is. Visconti in third, Tibore fourth. Then Diego Alisi from Lampre, then Svitsov of HTC High Road. That is the order they are descending in at the moment. Lastras is a very good descender, we know. So is Visconti. Jesus Hernandez still in this group. Matthias Frank managed to chase back onto this front group. I'm uncertain whether that must be Bogdanov of Katusha, because I think Losada was out of the back with Ben Gastauer. Attention, I'm wondering exactly what is going to happen here. They're now beginning to string it out, Sean. What is going to happen? Surely Liquigas have to use it. It looked like they were setting up for an attack here. They've got to do something.
Yes, and for the moment they're not really pushing it on as we go to the 15 to go there. But again, maybe they're waiting for a certain point on the descent. But they have to, keep the pace real high, even on this section. And as we get to the more technical part, hoping we will see them try something, because they have, been setting it up for a long time. But maybe they were thinking of getting this break back, and since that's not going to happen with the 10k to go, 3:24 for a breakaway, it's certainly not going to happen now. And maybe they've lost a little bit of heart and decided that they're not going to really push on in the end. But I would be expecting to try and do something. As we can see here, it's a very fast descent in this section, but as you get further down, a bit more technical, I think we will see the Liquigas trying to get a few seconds of an advantage for Nibali.
Matthias Frank is having to work to stay with this group. He's not quite as happy at speed as some of the other riders. Every time we get to a fast section, he loses 10-20 bike lengths. And look, the gap's beginning to appear here, Sean. Suddenly, for the first time, we've seen splits coming out in the peloton. We need to get to the front of that group and see exactly who's forcing the pace along. We could guess there'll be 2 or 3 teams trying to put Contador under pressure. Now you can see just how difficult this run-in to the finish is going to be. It's beginning to get more twisting and turning, and it gets more so. 9.5 kilometers for our leading riders. This is countryside that Vincenzo Nibali can really excel in. He is fantastically good at this stuff. This is the, as they say, the front of the race. These are the breakaway riders. We want to see who's leading the peloton down here. It's Liquigas. Look for the pink jersey of Alberto Contador is third, and what's the betting that the man at the front there is Vincenzo Nibali? Has to be. Unless Nibali is lurking somewhere behind Contador and wants to spring a surprise on him, but I very much doubt it. Eight and a half kilometers for the breakaway. It's Pablo Lastras here, leading them down with still, I think, Jan Bekkelens in his wheel, looking reasonably comfortable as Vorganov, who's flying through these beds. Oh my word, it's quick. They really have to be careful. It is extraordinary, Sean, after the absolute terrible time that the Giro d'Italia had with the sad death of Altavela, that these men get up the next day and do this, or virtually the next day, a week or so later. They still do it.
Yes, they do, and we can see there on the breakaway they're just pushing, really giving it everything on the descent, and you just see a distance of maybe 4 or 5 bike lengths between each rider almost. And when you're out there, they're thinking the stage victory here, and they're really going for it. You concentrate on what they're doing, but when you've been doing that for many years, you've got the confidence, and when you have confidence in your descending, you just push it on, and they are going really fast here. I think they must be doing 65 kilometers per hour at the moment.
Yep, plus on the bigger sections, the wider sections. Lastras leads them. Vorganov is the last man in the line now. I think Matthias Frank has decided discretion is the better part of valour for him. And this is back with the main race. Amazingly, it's not Vincenzo Nibali of Liquigas, who's at the front here, leading them down. It's Radio Shack followed by Varcon Soleil. And I'm not quite certain if that isn't Carrara. Difficult to tell. We've hardly seen a shot at all of the front of the peloton. Terribly, terribly difficult for, that looks like Popovic. Terribly difficult for the camera bikes to keep some sort of sensible distance here. They've either got to go much quicker to make some ground, or they've got to go much slower through the corners. All that momentum. Looks like Vorganov is gone from this group now. So they're just shedding them one by one, Sean, little by little. So people are dropping off the back if they can't stay on. Now, these riders will now want to work together in the flat section at the bottom here for the next 6 kilometers and try and drive it on. They won't want other people coming back to them now.
No, they have to keep working here. But again, easier said than done. There's always riders who are just here on the rear, will just sit on there and get carried along, and that's what upsets. And I think we will just see the same situation again, where they will start attacking each other one by one. There'll be a lot of attacking because we have, what, 3, 6, 8 riders at the moment. The advantage, of course, no problem, 3 minutes over the main bunch, and we're on this flat section, which is about 6 kilometers to the finish now. So again, we'll be back to the same tactic, attack after attack, I think, out front.
It doesn't appear to me, Sean, as though Liquigas are really driving it on down here at all. It's not happened for them. This is the back of the peloton. A few riders deciding they're just going to get down at their own pace here. Back with the front group on the road, and then they're all looking at each other. As you say, there's going to be attack after attack, Sean. We're back to the square one, really. And other riders like Robert Kieselowski, you can see just in the background, is going to make a connection here, because if he can just drive himself that little bit harder to get back to these slowing riders, he'll get there. That's it. And we'll be back to 10, 11, maybe 12 riders once again.
Yes, I think there will be some of the ones that we see in difficulty on the descent, and Matthias Frank, of course, we see him there in difficulty on the way down, just wasn't able to keep in the line of riders. But again, I think we could see some of them riders that just have a difficulty. If they just hang around a bit with our 8 leaders at the moment, they will be joined by a number of other ones.
Visconti goes after Lastras. The two of them were decisive at the top of the Aprica climb. They went away, but Vorganov and Kieselowski get back on. Tabore decides to do a little bit of cyclocross. And there's still riders just waiting here. It's a very difficult situation. This is all experience. Whoops. Well done, Tabore. Hazel Fernandez was trying to respond to the line of the rider in front. Can't really blame him for that. It's all about experience here now, Sean, isn't it? Because a lot of these guys, if you were a young rider in this sort of group, you might panic. You might try chasing everything down, but you can't chase everything down. You've got to pick the right people to chase.
Yes, you have to make a calculation, because if you start, jumping after and chasing everybody, then you will pay. If it comes together and stays together to the finish, well, you'll not have nothing left for the sprint. So you have to make a calculation. But sometimes, the stronger riders, they attack a lot, and somebody just sits on, and then there's a moment of just looking at each other, and somebody attacks from behind that has been struggling and rides on, and nobody wants to take up the chase and goes on to win. So it's not always the most experiences that works out in these breaks. Sometimes it's just a little bit of luck.
Well, we thought that perhaps Vincenzo Nibali was going to put Alberto Contador under pressure on that descent. It hasn't happened, Sean. They just haven't done it, and it's all status quo back at the front of the peloton. Meanwhile, up here in the break, of course, it's all action, but back there, all pretty much the same.
Yes, surprising they did not really push it on, because we did get a good footage of our breakaway, and you could see there was a lot of technical sections on the end of the descent, the bottom slope, and there was an opportunity there to do something, and it looked like they were going to do it, but nothing at all. Didn't really just ride on the descent in any way.
We saw shots of Dario Cataldo. As these 4 riders seem to have got a little gap over the Rest of the breakaway men, Lisi jettisons a bidon, doesn't need that anymore. Ahead of him is Jan Bekkelens and Pablo Lastras, and at the front Giovanni Visconti over the river. Now that's a decent gap. With 2.6 kilometers to go, the rest of them will have to work pretty hard to get back onto that, and I think they'll be looking at Switzoff to do it. Lastras pulls over. These four have still got to work together if they possibly can. Danger man for me here. Well, Visconti's very aggressive. I quite fancy the look of Diego Alisi here.
No.
Nope, go ahead.
Bakkelands. Guarantee.
There you go. Here's from the man who knows. However, they do say you are half Belgian and half Irish. So
yeah, so I would go for the Belgium out of the Royals out in front. I'd be supporting the Belgians more. Bakkelands last year, he was, very unlucky not to get a stage victory. He was up there and really panicked in the end of one of the stages and crashed just a kilometre or two from the finish. It will be interesting to see here. They have to keep on riding 1.9 kilometres. Their advantage they have there, was only maybe 15 seconds. So if they start to play around, we could see him swallowed up, because there is some riders back there still, I think, could close down this gap. And Switzoff, he's a real powerful rider. If he gets an advantage or he can sneak away, he could be coming across. But they're keeping it moving up front, certainly.
Pablo Lastras has struck for home with 1.5 kilometers to go. Visconti gets onto his wheel. Diego Alisi following the wheel of his fellow countryman. Jan Bekkelens is closed up now. And it'll ease off for Lastras. Who will take up the charge next? Nobody wants to at the moment. They're all looking at each other. This is what happens. They'll all play cat and mouse now. And will the rest of the escape group get up to them? Alisi wants to roll it on. Didn't want to go too far, though. We're going to come up to the Flamme Rouge very shortly. The kite marking 1 kilometre for the end of today's stage. Alisi, followed by Visconti, then Bakkelands, then Pablo Lastras. Lastras just laying off a little bit here at the back. He looks over his shoulder. They have to be careful that the other riders don't come up on them quickly. At the moment, it's okay, but they're going to come charging around the corner if they're not careful. There they are. Under the kilometre to go banner, they've already gone 900 metres, and the charge is on from behind. Alisi leads them out with Visconti trying to get across to the wheel. Alisi's going to have to get his head down and go. Nope, he says, this is not for me, this one. We'll wait, we'll see what happens. Somebody else take it up. He's not happy with taking out the charge at 500, well, it's 750 metres to go. Now gets to the back. Bakkelands is the man at the front. Bakkelands, Visconti. Then Lastras, looking over the shoulder is Alisi. They're trying to calculate. Have they got enough? Have they got enough of a gap? It looks like it at the moment, but they're slowing. Nobody wants to take it up. Behind, it's Konstantin Switzoff, as we said, who's going to try and drive them home to get it. At the moment, Bakkelands is not in the best position for this one. He's in a pretty big gear. And Visconti on the right-hand side, Alisi on the left, and Lastras goes with Alisi. Visconti goes around Bakkelands on the right-hand side. They strike for home now. There's no way back at this point. Diego Alisi and Visconti just a little bit checked. He's still... Oh, no, none of that. Visconti is absolutely furious, pushes Alisi, stops the sprint, basically. Oh, what a scrappy finish. And I'm afraid the commissaires will be looking at that one. And the reason being, I don't think Visconti was particularly squeezed. Sure, well, in my opinion, I don't think he was particularly squeezed. He had to check his tempo for sure, but he gave Alisi a whacking great big push.
Yes, he pushed Alisi out, and I think there will be a commissar looking at that. I don't think there was any great movement from Alisi. He just took up the sprint, maybe moved fractionally, but nothing majorly, and I don't think that it was just that Visconti was in a position where he got boxed in, and that's something in sprinting we've seen often, and just the positioning of Visconti. Unfortunately, he couldn't get a clear run, and he would have been able to come over him because we could see him there, but when you get boxed in a situation like that, it does get frustrating, and I think he was really he didn't know what to do really, Visconti, and just when you start pushing riders, they're going to be disqualified, I think, pretty quickly.
Got head on the block time, Sean.
Potrebbe scattare una squalifica per te,
Visconti.
Era di Visconti la mano.
Appunto, io ero davanti, lo sto
Will it be a
facendo
disqualifying for you and Visconti? No, I was in front doing my own sprint, he says. I agree. Head on the block then, Sean. What do you reckon? If you were a commissar looking at that now, from that initial shot, we haven't seen the overhead shot, so you can't make a full decision, but on the first gut reaction, what do you say?
Well, I think the first thing is who actually got the sprint. It looked like that Visconti maybe went over the line fractionally ahead, but I think he will have a problem holding that place if he did finish in the first position, because Ulisi, I think, he was making a pretty fair and correct sprint.
Gardeccia and Losada coming home to finish. 2 minutes and 10 down. Well, we really need to see the overhead shot and the replay straight away, but my gut feeling would be Visconti in the wrong, I'm afraid. Okay, so he's a bit boxed in. It's the way sprinting works. Not particularly pressured or squeezed. Gave him a little nudge, first of all, Sean, and just to say I'm behind you, or not even to say I'm behind you, just gave him a little push. He was clearly rattled by it, and then gave him a whacking great big shove.
Yes, well, he wasn't moving off. He was still, keeping his line, and that's what a rider does. He doesn't allow you to come through easily, and Visconti really pushed him off, and it will be interesting to see what the results will be, but I feel for Visconti not looking good.
Oh, we're desperate to see the overhead, but I should imagine those shots are being used already by the commissars. Always is Giovanni. I was coming twice the speed of him, he says. If I didn't take my arm off the bars, and I wouldn't have managed to get to the finish. He's a young rider. He's terribly bad behavior all day long. I'm happy to beat him. I'm sorry, but those things shouldn't happen on the showdown. Only in Italy. I've decided to be a little more positive in my assertions of what I think is going on in these sprints, and I think Visconti's in the wrong there. I don't think that's closing up particularly. Certainly, as some people are already suggesting on Twitter, he's being pushed into the barriers. Rubbish. He's not being pushed into the barriers at all. Ulisi with no intention of pushing him in there. A little bit of a push. Ulisi knows he's there. In fact, Ulisi's just about holding the same line. Here comes Visconti. Oh, it's a shame we can't see past there. No, give him a shove. Go on. I would not be at all surprised if Visconti will have to defend himself very vigorously, but he may well get done for dangerous sprinting here, because he could have caused an enormous pile-up if Lastras hadn't had the presence of mind to go around him. Just think what would have happened if he'd have pushed him into the front wheel of Lastras. That would have been very bad indeed.
Yes, and we could see Lastras maybe getting this victory here, because
both of them could go, yeah.
Both of them could end up getting being disqualified, and Lastras could become the stage winner.
Oh, he was lucky, was Lastras. And here are the UCI commissaires. They're there deliberately to check this. We can't tell exactly what's happening at the moment. It could end up being Lastras. Well, some people writing in saying, JL writing in, Visconti was riding in a straight line. The guy in front was riding all over the place. I don't know which race you were watching.
He needs to talk to Graham Brown if he likes that race sprint.
Yes, indeed, yes.
No, but I think sprinting, there's always a little bit of movement when you're giving it 100% and you move a little bit, and Ulisi did move a bit, but I don't think anything to cause major problems, and I think it was a pretty correct sprint from Ulisi.
Alberto Contador not threatened in the pink jersey, of course, today. We did think that he might come under a little bit of pressure on the descent into Aprica by the liquid gas squad, and in particular Vincenzo Nibali, but it hasn't been the case today. It looked for all the world as though that was being set up. Here we are, look very closely. No, at least he's not moving. No, 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 no. Sorry, I'm going to stick my neck out and say, Visconti, you're wrong, I'm afraid. And the right reporter there.
C'est que le champion d'Italie est déclassé à la 3e place, donc c'est le coureur de chez Lampré qui est déclaré vainqueur du sprint, puisque
Ulissi
sur
is the winner.
centaine de mètres, on voit bien
Visconti,
qu'il garde sa ligne.
third
Voilà.
position.
Allora, la decisione è
That
la
is
seguente.
the UCI's official decision. Visconti relegated to third. Ulissi, the winner of the sprint. Lastras gets second. Fair decision?
Yes, I think Ulissi was pretty fair on that sprint. Nothing majorly incorrect, and deserves his stage victory.
This is what was happening just a few seconds ago. This is Emanuele Sella, typical style, big gear style, leans right the way over the bars. He's been a little bit active earlier in this Giro d'Italia, but we haven't seen an awful lot of him. Has got into one long break. This was the break of the day, the first break of the day, getting away. Nobody's been trying anything. Remember, 151 kilometres, and we've only got 67 to go, and this is the first time anybody's tried to even get away from the peloton. They've all just been trundling along. Stefano Garzelli was the only man who got to the front and tried to just enliven things a little bit. Three riders initially getting away in this little group, and Sella going after the chase. Paolo Tiralongo, Dario Cataldo and Jaro Amiti of the Androni squad. But it's not been very lively so far. I'm not surprised, they've still got 2 big days to go. We'll bring you up to date when something actually really happens. We'll bring you up to date in just a minute. Sean, nice to see Mr. Visconti saying, I'm terribly sorry, these things happen.
Yes, well, I think when he settled a bit yesterday after the finish and looked at it again, when you see the sprint, the overhead shot gave a real, clear picture that Ulissi, when he started his sprint, he moved a little bit, but nothing, drastic, and certainly Visconti wasn't the wrong. And I think even before the line, he was saying, "Oh my God, I've made a mistake here." He was at the in the middle of the road as such, and then he went over to the left, got behind Ulissi and tried to come up on his left side where there was very little room, and Ulissi closed it a little bit. A big mistake, but you have to hand it to Ulissi that in the sprint I think he was real strong. When he did go for his sprint, it looked like that Visconti was always going to have a difficulty coming over him.
Yeah, it did look, well, under him, in fact. He was trying to squeeze between him and the barrier. He did get a little out of line, I have to say. 65 kilometres to go on today's stage, Sean, and they really can't be bothered much today. It's got a few riders trying to get away in a break, but this is the first time we've seen a break really being formed in the Giro d'Italia. Often our coverage comes a little bit later than the break that started, but nobody's done thing until 65 kilometres to go.
Well, I'm not surprised considering yesterday's stage and what they've been through in this Giro. Yesterday again, the breakaway, a long one out there, and the way they were riding, it was unbelievable with the 50, 60 kilometres to go, the way they were attacking each other, because they had to do that. The breakaway was too big to work out. A lot of guys wanted to sit on, and for that reason they had to try and break it up, and what an exciting attacking race we had up in the breakaway. And then of course the bunch and Lico Gas taking it up very early, and what was the tactic there? It looked like that we were going to see something happening back in the bunch also. So a difficult day for everybody, and when you look at the finish yesterday, like a lot of riders losing time, the bunch was 2:59 down, but then like there was groups down at 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 24 minutes was the final group on the road. So a lot of tired riders, and I'm not surprised that we see a bit of downtime today and no major attacking and trying to get out of the main bunch today for a long time into the race.
Yeah, because tomorrow and the day after, once again, nasty stages. Although it's only a third category climb they finish on tomorrow, they've got a first category climb in the middle of the stage. It's 209 kilometres, again, another long one. And then the day afterwards as well, up to Sestriere, one of the classic climbs of both the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de France, of course, being used in both. Another massive day.
Yes, 2 big days to come, and tomorrow's not a majorly difficult climb, a second category in the end, but again, a mountaintop finish. If they attack, really earlier on the race, get very aggressive, well, then it will be a difficult one. And at this time of the race, at the end of a 3-week tour, it's going to be real difficult for everybody.
Philip Dijkenen having another go. Clearly, as we speculate, or you'd speculated, Sean, he's beginning to come around a little bit towards the end of this year, which is a really good sign for Dijkenen, because in the past we've seen him go the opposite way and just drop off a little bit of form. But clearly feeling a lot better than he has been.
Yes, well, I think it's the real indicator how he's feeling if he's attacking here at this point in the race. And we can see it's been aggressive for a while now, and a lot of attacks out of the bunch, and here he is driving it on and trying to form a breakaway. It tells me that he's improving as this race go on. And when you see the last number of days, I know there were some days where he was down a bit, but I think that was calculation as well, and he's really up there, as we can see, pushing it on. A good sign that he's finishing strongly.
Riders are moving to the side of the road if they possibly can, get away from these very, very rough stone flags. They're not so much cobbles here. And just making sure they're in a good position. It's good that the rain is not around at this particular point. And this is Bergamo they're going through. Dijkenen on the right-hand side of your screen. 2 Liquigas riders up here, Sean, which is a very interesting tactic. Now, why would 2 Liquigas riders, the man, their main leader Nibali, still in with a chance of trying to attack Alberto Contador at some point, why would they put 2 men to try and drive a break along?
Well, I think it's just the front end of the bunch really here we're seeing, so they're positioning, and it'll be interesting to see who is up there. We could see a lot of the bigger favourites up there. Contador also very close to the front, and Dijkenen really driving it on. Is that Bacalans there again up front?
Yeah,
from
so.
Omega Pharma? Dijkenen looking like a classic rider there, the way he's riding all them cobblestones, and really pushing it on and holding on to the front. We did see the Omega Pharma lower rider, pushing him out a bit onto the cobbles, and continue on riding on the front, looking very strong at the moment, and hopefully he can get into the break of the day if there's a breakaway allowed at the moment, because 62 kilometres, it's always difficult when it gets to this time, but I feel the way the riders are feeling, it has to split at some time, and in the end of the race, I think we will see a group forming and getting away. Will they stay to the finish? That is the big question.
61.9 kilometres still to go. They're trying hard to get away. Pozzato is on the front doing a policing job, I think. This is Bacalans once again trying to force the pace along and get away. He was in the break in the end, the last 4. Stage 18, big push on the right-hand side of the road by Vacansoleil. A real attack, I suppose, on the descent here. It's a good place to do it. Try and get away if you can spin the pedals fast enough. Because really, it was just the pace being forced through the town that's begun to split things up a little bit. A lot of the big favourites at the front, but that's a good move, Sean. If you've got the legs and you can spin it out on the downhill, try and get away.
Yes, and I think we did see in the town there of Bergamo Alta, High Bergamo, and that's where they were trying to get on the cobbles. It's really split the bunch here, and we could see a lot of nervousness there with riders trying to take position. And this has to be Johnny up front, surely. Johnny Hogeland. It's certainly his style, and he's in his terrain, of course. A bit of cobbles, he like that. He would be a bit of a specialist in the classics and the Belgium style of races, but again, very active, and hopefully he gets into a good break, because he's been very active in this race, and looking very strong the days he's been trying to get out there in front, but never really getting in a break that was in a position to go on to the finish. And with the legs he's got, he should be able to do it at least today, or maybe before the end of this race.
Under 60 kilometres then to the finish of today's stage 18. Let's just have a look a little bit closer at the profile. Once again, with 60k to go, we've just come out of Bergamo Alta, which you've seen high Bergamo, the old part of Bergamo, and now into Bergamo proper. And just no, it isn't actually.
Oh,
Thought it
Carrara.
was. It's Carrara.
Yes.
Who's trying to get away. Carrara, who's slipped down the order just a little bit in the general classification. He's not as well placed as he was, but he has had a good Giro d'Italia so far for Vacansoleil. They're coming into Bergamo. This is Bergamo they're in. And now it gently begins to rise from this city outwards through Albino and Galcinia. And then they rise up to Arezzo, through the village of Arezzo in onto the Passo di Ganda, and from the Passo di Ganda it's 30 kilometres to the finish. Slightly uphill finish, not particularly uphill, but quite difficult. You've got to cross the river a couple of times in San Pellegrino Terme, and about 350 metres from the finish you go across a bridge, 90-degree left-hander, 90-degree left-hander. And the interesting thing is, if it rains, it might be a bit slippery, because it's not just tarmac there. They have this very, very polished marble. I think it might be basalt, actually. Very, very polished stone slabs on the run-in as well at some point. So it could be a little more difficult than normal. There's Michele Scarponi in the red points leaders jersey. Remember, he doesn't own that jersey. It's owned by Alberto Contador, who is a country mile ahead of Scarponi, but he can't wear the pink and the overall leaders jersey. The one jersey he doesn't have at the moment, apart from the best young riders jersey, is the mountains classification jersey. That is being reasonably firmly held by Stefano Garzelli. He's on 64 points. Alberto Contador is on 53. The next best man is Nieve on 39 points. 57.8k to go, and all a bit looking at each other at the moment, and
riders everywhere.
yeah, they're all over the place, aren't
This
they?
is a group which has just lost a bit of contact to the front end of the bunch. As we can see, the team cars here starting to get by. We did see up there Contador, Scarponi was very close. Nibali was there also, very much to the front, and it'll be interesting to see if there's somebody who have missed it here. At the moment we can see Contador very much on the front end of the group here, and it's going to be attack after attack, because we're into the point, as you say. We were coming to the difficult mountain, and a lot of riders are going to say, well, you know, this is the chance to get out of this group and form a breakaway, get into the breakaway before the mountain, because if we go to the mountain we have no chance. If the big riders, the big favourites, start pushing on the pace, the big teams, well, you know, there's nothing for us for today. So it's an opportunity here to get out of this group and try and get a break formed.
There's a lot of looking around going on. Everybody wondering who's going to do what. Ivan Rovny is the man from Radio Shack, who's just slipped out of our shot at the back. He's seen a lot of Rovny at the back. I think it's tired legs for the young Russian. There's a lot of tired riders. It was interesting to see Giuseppe Martinelli going and seeing the riders in our Inside Astana program a little bit earlier on. In fact, we'll take some time to talk about that and exactly what happens, and the way that the day is assessed and how frank they are, really. Quite blunt, actually, sometimes, directors sportives. After we take the next break, we'll come back and we'll have a look at this. Carlos Sastre, the right-hand side of your shot. He's clearly tried to push things on a little bit at some point. Philip Dijkman keen to keep going. We'll take a short break. There seems to be a break forming, but it's not going great guns. Alberto Contador on your screens, clearly needing to have some attention to the bike. This is Marco Pinotti. And Pinotti alongside Sildrez. of Quickstep and Bram Tankink of Rabobank. Three of them beginning to work together pretty well. Seldres can be a very aggressive rider if he wants to be. He's calling the other two on, saying, come on, we've got to keep this one rolling. Tankink didn't want to really take it up too much. Seldres looks like he's being forced to do most of the work here by himself. He's got something caught in the rear derailleur here. As Alberto Contador. It does happen now and again. I think of Tommy Wegmuller in the Tour of Flanders when our colleague Jackie Durand jumped in at the end with a plastic bag in his rear derailleur. Tea stop for Russell Downing. I hope that's Yorkshire tea. It's all quietened down just a little bit here, Sean. I think any riders who are up ahead have a good chance now of pushing on if they want to get away. There doesn't seem to be any response whatsoever here.
Well, I think it's just a regrouping here, and the favourites just looking and watching and playing the waiting game, and an opportunity for the breakaway to pull out a nice advantage here. Again, will they be a team that missed out here, and when they get back together, team orders maybe have to chase down, and that is, going to be the interesting one to see if this breakaway can stay away. If not, it looks like we have a breakaway formed, and it looks to be a breakaway for the day, 53 kilometres. But again, we're getting to that point now. To pull out the advantage is not going to be easy, because we're getting close to the climb, and if there's action again in the bunch, we could see the breakaway not having sufficient time gain before they get onto the climb to hold on to the finish.
Here is the break, as you can see. There's Virgioso in your shot, Brambilla, Losada also in the break, Cataldo, Oscar Gatto, Seldres, Tiralongo, who started the moves earlier on, Passamontes. Quite a big group. There's Dijkman, Carrara, Tankink, Navarro and Russell Downing in the break. We missed him getting away. Good man. Go on, Russell. 52k, or just over 52.5k to go, and a big group that, Sean. It's possibly a little bit too big at the moment. I mean, it'll get whittled down on the climb.
Yes, well, too big at the moment, but again, to get away, if they just contribute, everybody do a little bit, it's a good situation to be in, and to pull out a nice advantage before the climb. But it will certainly break on the climb again, because the pressure will be on. Again, we have to wait for a moment, I suppose, and see what's going to happen back here in the bunch as everybody get back into the bunch after being tailed off in that difficult cobble section.
Diagonal in the group. It's Seldres, Losada going through. Oops, losing a picture just a little bit. There's Dario Cataldo from Quickstep at the back, and Matteo Carrara is the rider from Vacon Soleil. Tankink getting some fluid from the neutral car. So there seems to be the chasing group of three here in the central, well, the bottom left-hand picture here, Sean. We haven't had any time check on those, or the names either, but I would guess that is a chasing group.
Yes, it looks like it's a chasing group, and we see Hernandez there, 184 from the Saxo Bank. Again, he was the rider who was up there. He uses Hernandez yesterday in the break, and it looks very much the case that they are the three chasers. But out front, a lot of looking about here. We're going back to the cars, getting drinks, and a lot of people seem to be just getting a drink from the neutral service car here. And I reckon the reason, over the cobble sections, a lot of the riders lost their bottles there, and that's the reason there's a bit of a panic. Everybody looking for some fresh bottles.
51 kilometres still to go on this, and it's Geox's Carlos Sastre who's trying to get that bottle in. This is definitely a chasing group of three. Kazunchuk, Pino and Hernandez are the three riders here. Kazunchuk at the front. In the middle is Pino. of Quickstep, and Hernandez is the last rider. It's 2 days in a row then Hernandez has been in the breakaway. Sean, he must be in good shape if they'll allow somebody to get up there. The new tactic we saw yesterday from Saxenberg, and B, that he can make it in the first place.
Yes, to make it in the first place, and considering what we've come through there, a difficult section with the cobblestones uphill, he has to be in good shape, and yesterday in the break, and feeling good again today. Looks like it's a tactic that they want a man up there. And when you look at the route today, of course, again we have that at the 120 mark, we have the top of the the second category climb, so 30 kilometers to the finish, a lot of it downhill there. Maybe there's a tactic there that they just want a man out front in case there's something with Contador that he needs help out front, and it's very possible that is a tactic, just try and get at least a man in the breakaway that's moving away.
And they've made the catch. Dmitry Kozunchuk has already moved up, and Hernandez is chasing hard to stay on the wheel of Jan Bekelens. Then it's Brambilla of the Colnago CSF squad. It's a very big group at the moment. 3 men from Quickstep here in that particular group, Sean. And this is two or three riders who've gone out ahead of them. Well, 2 riders. It's Bram Tankink and Marco Pinotti. Pinotti's very, very strong still. Juan Harach having a quick chat with the team leader of an opposing team and the leader of the race. And clearly dismissing something that Juan Harach has suggested. Through Bergamo we have run, and we're on our way to the single climb of the day, which is the Passo di Ganda. Coming as it does after 30k, after Bergamo that is, 30k after Bergamo, and there's a 30-kilometre run down into the town of San Pellegrino. So, interesting finish though today, Sean, in San Pellegrino. It's a little bit tricky, I would imagine, especially if it gets a little bit wet. It's got, you run one side of the river, and then you cross the river from left to right, across a bridge, a short squirt along the other side, other bank, and then you go from right to left, but not that far from the finish, probably about 250-300 metres from the finish.
Yes, it's a technical finish, and hopefully there's not a big bunch coming in together, because it doesn't look a nice one for that situation. So hopefully it's a breakaway out there, and if we have Ross Downing up there, it's his style of finish, a few corners before the finish, and a short run into the finish. So it would be a good one for him, but again we have a lot of terrain to get over this climb, which is about 9 kilometres, and that's where I think the damage will be done. And if this breakaway stays up there, because at the moment, as we can see, there's a lot of people just sitting on, tagging on the rear, and they're not really committed out front. And what's up here, maybe 18, 20 riders, so maybe just too many to get organised.
Could be. This is Dijkman taking on some water from the neutral car, or the Astana rider was Paolo Tirolongo. Ironic, considering the shots we saw yesterday, well, the shots we saw this morning taken last night. Paolo Tirolongo had to save yourself, says Giuseppe Martinelli, but he's now in the breakaway. This is Jérôme Pinot, attacking rider. Good stage for Pinot today, because he had that long battle for King of the Mountains in the Tour de France last year with Anthony Charteau, riding for Baybox Bouygues Telecoms he was then. But Pinot, very strong rider, good in a breakaway, good in a small group, good in a large group actually, technically very astute as well. They go under the 48 kilometres to go, Bano. He's going a long way by himself. Maybe he just wants to force the others to come with him, and then force splits in that group. Maybe he realises that group is a little bit too big, and he has to force it to get a bit smaller.
And 2:18 the advantage we see for this group out front, head of Contador's race leaders group, the front of the bunch, and they're pulling it out quite quickly, considering they're not riding really well up front, but here in the bunch it's really slowed down, and that's going to be the advantage. And we see Pinot there going in the attack, and they're not organised at all. We can see there that they're looking at each other, and it's a good move by Pino. Get out here. Hopefully, he will be hoping that there will be other riders come to him. 3 or 4 others, and if he can get a group 4-6 riders in a breakaway, is the situation. But I think we will see a lot of attacking here at this group before they get the real group formed up front.
Yeah, it's going to get small up before we see the final. .46.5 kilometres to go at stage 18. The graphic that just popped up in the bottom left hand of your screen showed the average race speed so far. 49.9 kilometres an hour. That's about 50k an hour. That's an average race speed. Be fair to say they're motoring today. This is Pinot. He's got a bit of a gap, but that's a long and fairly lonely road by himself. I do think he's trying to force the splits behind, but there's the likelihood he could use up a lot of energy doing that just by himself. In the breakaway then, the riders that we have so far that we have confirmed that, from Race Radio to us: Dignan of Radio Shack Vicioso, of Androni Bakelans, once again of Omega Pharmaloso Brambilla, of Colnago CSF, Downing of Sky, Carrara of Vacon Soleil, Passamontes of Movistar, Cataldo and Sildreyes both of Quickstep. We've seen Jérôme Pinot of Quickstep go ahead of them, Carlos Sastre and Dimitri Kozunchuk of Geox, Losada of Katusha, Marangoni of Liquigas, Pinotti of HTC Hiro, Tiralongo of Astana and Hernandez of Saxo Bank. Big group, big group. I think there's probably a couple more in there that we haven't got so far. He must feel good today, Jérôme Pinot. It's a shortish stage, 1:51. I think he realises that this is his last chance to do something in this year's Giro d'Italia. He's out by himself at the moment. He's got about 250 metres over his other escapade. Nothing happened in the peloton this morning. All reports were saying, well, they're just trundling along. Then we saw the average speed, if that is to be believed, 49.9 kilometres an hour. They're hardly trundling along. The likelihood is that they couldn't get away rather than didn't get away, or couldn't be bothered. They just couldn't. 49.9 kilometres an hour, that's a mighty fast average speed. It's a short stage today, 151 kilometres. With only 43 to go. A number of riders have managed to make the split. Here are some of them. There's Russell Downing. Dario Cataldo just behind him. Brambilla, Sildreyes, Marangoni and Pinotti in this group here. This is Cataldo at the back for Quickstep. Russell Downing just ahead in the black and the white, and then Pinotti in the black shorts, white jersey, just there going through. Looks like the possibility is sure, and the Quickstep have got 3 men now in this selection out of the selection, so to speak.
Yes, and I think the little bit of cobble section got him in that position, and up front they had a number of men and continued on to do it, and it's a situation that they definitely need to in the quick step, but
these are given up by the look of it. They look like they're waiting for the peloton.
Yes, again, it's going to be a lot of action in that group, and but it'll be interesting to see. Have we got Pino still out front? Our last pictures was Pino out front, and then we have a group chasing, I think, but Pino is the one that seems to be leading at the moment.
Yeah, I think he's still out ahead on the road. They've got a decent gap now, 4 minutes and best part of 4:30. Pino's probably still got a few hundred metres or a few metres on the other guys, but I think the guys behind, there's Sildreyes. So that's clear then. Pino is still ahead of these men. There's Dario Cataldo. Is that Pino there? That's Pino, yes, he is Pino. Thought it was Cataldo for a second. It is Jérôme Pino. And Russell Downing has made the selection. So, all of those Russell Downing fans, including me, have to hang on to your seats now, because with 42 kilometres to go, this is a good position for the young man from South Yorkshire, well, not so young now, a man from South Yorkshire, who almost made his Grand Tour debut a long time ago with Linda McCartney, the ill-fated Linda McCartney squad. Alberto Contador just having a chat with his lieutenant and try to work out what they do here, and there's no need to ride. Nice little group this, and with such a short stage, Sean, they possibly got enough to stay away. They're still pushing on. You can afford to with only 41 kilometres left to go, and the selection from that small selection will be made on that last mountain of the day, I would think, Sean.
Yes, well, the final mountain of the day, of course, with 30 kilometres to finish when we get to the summit, and a lot of that downhill. It's 25 kilometres of downhill, so it is going to be a part of the race where the riders will go in the attack, because if you're feeling good, you're a good climber, you can pull out a big advantage on the climb, and so they're not going to hang around and wait, I don't think, there. But again, it all depends on the advantage of the break out front. As we see there a moment ago, it's almost 4.5 minutes, but here we could see someone taking it up. Faresi seems to be just starting at the moment, and is there a team there that will want to do that? That is the question. If not, well, it looks like we could see these 6 riders going on and contesting for the stage victory today.
It could be that the Farnese Vini want to make amends for yesterday, Sean. Giovanni Visconti missing out on the sprint yesterday to Diego Alisi. Well, I say missing out, being demoted yesterday. Some highly irregular pushing, but that's what happened in the sprint. That's what happens in sprints. They missed out yesterday, maybe smarting a little bit and trying to get away. They had Oscar Gatto in the original group of escapees here, and they, these 6 here, have pulled out a substantial gap over their fellow escape artists, and now Gatto has gone back towards the peloton. And that may be why Farnese Vini are trying to push on a little bit. 4:35. The gap is steady. It's not going out anymore. Well, not much anyway. 2 from Quickstep, Pinot and Sildrez. Russell Downing also in the group, Marangoni of Liquigas, Brambilla of Colnago, CSF, and certainly Farnese Vini are not wanting to let this one get away. Under 40 kilometres to go for our 6 breakaway riders. 4 minutes 32 is the gap. Will they stay away? Marco Pinotti leads the 6 breakaway men. Pinot, Sildrez, Downing, Brambilla, and it is Capecci, we think, actually, from Liquigas in the group. It took a long time for a group to form, actually. They were within 67 kilometres of the finish before any riders started to get away, and it was the little cobble climbs in Bergamo Alta, which is the old town of Bergamo, that really pushed the pace on. It is Capecci, and this is Kevin Sildrez, who was so good in the Giro d'Italia last year. He was just forcing the pace. Through goes Capecci, then Pinotti, Brambilla. Pinot and Downing is hanging on for grim death here, I think. This is going to be very difficult for Russell Downing to stay, and he's had a tough debut Giro d'Italia, and the climbs will have taken it out of him. The big mountains will have taken it out of him. There's no doubt about that. But Downing is a very tough customer indeed, but he doesn't look as comfortable as I'd like him to look, Sean, in that group of 6.
Well, I think he always looks a little bit uncomfortable when it goes uphill. Certainly, his style of riding, it looks like he's hanging in there, but time will tell, and he has to try and stay up here in this group, because it is a real good situation he's in, and try and just hold on to get over the climb. All depend how well he's feeling. If he is really suffering, well then it's going to be a difficult one, because it is a 9-kilometre climb and there is sections in it where the gradient is quite steep, and if you haven't got the legs, you haven't got the legs.
That's true, that's true. A little bit of news before we get into the last 30 kilometres, which is going to be, this is the mountain we're on, by the way. For today, it's the Passo di Ganda. They have to hang in there in the breakaway to see if they can stay away. Second category climb. The little bit of news that we do have is that it appears that the CAS, Court of Arbitration for Sport, is going to postpone the hearing about Alberto Contador not being given a ban by the Spanish Federation. The UCI asked for that. It appears that the CAS are going to postpone it till after the Tour, even as far as September. That was the rumour this morning. I understand, looking at the Twitter feed, that some people have picked up that it has been confirmed it's going to be postponed. If you have that confirmation link, please do send it, rather than us saying that it is definitely that way. That's what I'm reading on some people who've been putting things on Twitter. If that's the case, come on, guys, get it together. Somehow the authorities have got to get it together. I know it's a complex legal situation, because every lawyer in the world is going to try and spin it out. But, you know, we could end up with Alberto Contador winning this Grand Tour. He could end up winning the Tour de France, and of course he won last year's Tour de France. 6 Grand Tour victories. If the UCI are successful in their arbitration and he gets handed out a 2-year suspension, 3 of those victories could be taken away. So you end up from 6 to 3 immediately, which makes a complete farce of the whole races. Great shame. Get it together, guys. I'm sure it's not just us here saying that. Eros Capecci, the front of the of this 6-man group here. And have they shed any? It looks like Russell Downing is no longer in that group, Sean, and did say he was suffering a little bit. 6 has become 4 here.
And Pino is the one that seems to be missing also, which is a surprise.
Well, the 2 of them were on the back, weren't they? And maybe he did put a bit too much effort into it. This is Tiralongo going across the gap, I think. Interesting, isn't it? Well, let's just talk about Tiralongo and the others, or trying to get across the gap, and the others in the Astana team. We saw that Inside Astana vignette. If you didn't see it before the programme started, basically Giuseppe Martinello went to every rider in their bedrooms in the evening and gave an assessment of what they've done and what they have to do the following day. He's pretty blunt, isn't he, Sean? The DSs don't hold many punches.
No, well, not at all, and I suppose pretty direct with the TV camera in the room. That is certainly the case, but again, it goes out just before our live commentary, so it's not a problem for the team that he's given information to the other teams too early, so you can do that. And I think there will be a second run around to the rooms by Martinelli later on as well, and talking to the guys a bit more seriously. But it was quite interesting to see that he was picking out the riders, and Gurov was the one who seemed to be suffering, Donikenko, which seems to be suffering big time as well, and Joufre seems to be really in trouble, and trying to get the riders to just get him through. And if you're real empty, well then it's a difficult one to to hang on in here. And they're riding for the team classement, of course, so that makes it a bit difficult. There's a bit of pressure on them, although he did say we're not interested in it. I'm not sure if that is the case. I think they still have their eye on that team classification all the time.
Joseph Joupre came in for some particularly barbed comments, I thought, saying, I'm very disappointed in him, he's got to hang in there. And Dinachenko doesn't play the team game. He's not a team player, don't like it. That's basically what he said, and he was pretty blunt about it. Whereas this man here, Paolo Tiralongo, he said, you've got to keep your powder dry because we need you for the next 2 days after this stage. Well, he's in the break. He had been in the break, and he's trying to go away now. Thank you, by the way, to Steve Olsen, who sent me a story by Shane Stokes, well-respected Irish journalist, saying that it has been confirmed the CAS are going to postpone the hearing into Alberto Contador's situation with the Tour de France last year. That's complete rubbish, isn't it? Eros Capecci is obviously in good form today, and given his chance to get away, and he has. In this break of 3 was about 16 or 17 riders, maybe nearly 20 riders. Soon whittled down though. Capecci with Sildrez behind him of Quickstep with the Jersey Open, and then Marco Pinotti of HTC High Road is the last man in this little group of 3. Brambilla has been dropped out of the back of that, as has Jérôme Pinault and Russell Downing. They were the first 2 to go. Will they be able to stay away at some point? He's setting a good pace here, Capecci. To see how big that gap is to Brambilla. There he is. He seems to be making some ground up again by the look. Or is that Tirolongo who's come across? Difficult to say. I would doubt if Tirolongo's made that much ground up. No, there is Paolo Tirolongo. So Brambilla fighting his way back on there, Sean, and it should be 4 again shortly.
Yes, he looks like he's fighting his way on, and surprising that he missed the group. But again, it's easier said than done, I suppose, to be exactly in the right place at the right time, and maybe just a little bit difficult in the earlier part. Will he get back in? The way they're riding up front here with Capecci pushing on, I'd be surprised if we see him making it. But again, we've often seen the case where riders get in difficulty earlier on and recover and just get into the rhythm and get back into the group. But certainly Capecci is the one who is pushing on here, and he must be pushing on big time, because Pino as well, he's a rider that he can hang on in there when he's out in a break. He's difficult to get rid of, and so the pace has to be quite high. Sildrez, of course, he can do some good performance. We've seen him in the past 2 years. He won the Giro, a great performance, and this year a little bit under his best, but still battling on here with Russell Dowling. We have Pino here at the moment. So riders all over the place here in 1s and 2s scattered on this climb.
Yep, Tirolongo is the rider just in the background there. Of course, Tirolongo is a climber, and he's going to inch up on those 2 men. When he reaches them, he'll just gently, smoothly pass them, and hopefully they can get a bit of pace from trying to stay on his wheel. I mean, how much easier is it, Sean? Even if you're on the rivet, if a better climber comes past you at not too fast a rate, can you get any advantage from trying to latch onto their wheel?
Well, it's difficult when you get dropped out of a breakaway, and as we see Jérôme Pinault and Russell Downing here, I think when a better rider comes by, and a climber especially, and Tirolongo, he is a good climber, it'll be difficult to see those guys getting onto his wheel here. Depending on what situation as well on the climb. If you're close to the top and you're inside the last kilometre, a kilometre and a half, well then the riders, they can just dig in real deep and hang on in there. But if you have a number of kilometres, I would see it difficult for them to get on the wheel of Tirolongo and stay there to the top of this climb, because there is still a long ways to go.
35 kilometres to the finish. It's about 5 kilometres to the top of this climb. It's a long one, this one. It's a fairly constant gradient until we get to the top section, where it ramps up to about 9%. So it's not particularly friendly for them. Under the 35 kilometre to go banner for the 3 remaining men from the breakaway, which went away at about 67 kilometres. How do you ride hairpin, Sean? Interesting there to see exactly what was going on. Tirolongo's got past Pinault and Russell Downing that were standing still there. How do you ride hairpins? You see a sharp hairpin like that, where on the road should you be riding it?
Well, you take wide into the hairpin, of course. Keep... if it's a left-hander, you keep to the right, and then you just cut it tight into it and go wide on the way out. On the uphill, it's a difficult one. You have to see the gradient as well, and what way the gradient is in the corner itself. But normally you keep a little bit wide and get your angle wide in a bit, and then just cut it tight in through the corner.
Unless you're Dennis Menchoff, in which case you fall off mid-corner. 34.5 kilometres. They're going pretty pacey up here. Sildrez had a fantastic Giro d'Italia last year, but he's sort of been a bit patchy since then. He's got tremendous talent, Sean, but he still has to develop consistency.
Yes, I think that's what's missing this year, and we've seen him in a few races that he hasn't been able to produce the the promise he was producing a year ago, and in the early part this year as well in the smaller stage races, struggling a bit, so finding it difficult to throw in the performances or anywhere near the performance that he was doing a year ago.
There is our pink jersey of Alberto Contador. He's got Roman Koisiger just behind him, and then the green jersey, the Mountains classification jersey of Stefano Garzelli. He was the only man to really show today before the breakaway went. There's Paolo Salvoldelli on the back of the bike. He's been doing that job all through the Giro d'Italia. Luckily, they've been blessed with fairly good weather most of the time. I should think it's an even more miserable job than riding in the rain. Sitting on the back of that all day. There we are, illustration of riding the hairpin. If the clock tower didn't get in the way. Not so easy for the cars to get around this one. Definitely not so easy for the cars to get around. And our leading riders, Carpecci, Silderez and Pinotti. Our first time we've seen Pinotti come to the front in this ascent, just to take a bit of the pacemaking. Doesn't want to stay there too long. And Silderez is going through now. I think probably they'll take the turns a little bit more frequently now, but it was Zeros Capecci who had forced the pace on. Three men with a chance, and Carpecci not wanting the water. There are occasionally fans who do things that they think are well-intentioned and riders just don't want them. And we've seen it a lot. The most common one is when you see a rider being pushed by fans. The commissars don't like it. They might get a penalty for it. There's lots of false go-aways that go on the big mountains. They make a big show of it, but often you'll notice they take 2 or 3 good turns of the push and then they start protesting. And then they'll do it a bit further up the hill. Amazing what a difference it can make getting a few shoves. Silderez is a real old pedal pumper, isn't he? He's that sort of rider. He sort of bounces on the bike as he pedals, whereas Carpecci's much more stable. So he rides a little bit like Nibali, actually. And the last man, Marco Pinotti, well, perfectly still upper body, just turns the legs, really. Equally effective, all three of them. They are today, anyway. And this is Tiralongo. Remember, he's passed Russell Downing and Jerome Pinot. We don't know whether he's passed Gianluca Brambilla, because we haven't seen Brambilla for a long time here on the road. 4:09 is the gap for the 3 men of the breakaway. Remaining 3 men of the breakaway. You would expect Tiralongo to have passed Brambilla by now, or at least be very close to him. He's going to have a bit of trouble, I think, making the catch of these 3. Not so very far from top now. 1:08 back to Paolo Tiralongo, and I don't think that Tiralongo is going to make that gap up more than... We might get within about 30 seconds of him. I'm not sure he's going to make the full gap up.
I don't think they want him up here either, and we see Capecci really pushing on. Silderez also, giving it a lot here, and Pinotti, we see him taking his turns as well. So all 3 riding well, and it's in their interest not to allow Tiralongo to get on, because then you're in a situation where the team classification, if the second team on the team classification, Movistar, like at 4:13 in the general of team ranking, if they're still thinking of that, they could start riding behind and want to take this break back a bit, and that would be the danger one, and that could be the finish of the breakaway. So I think they're being made aware, the 3 riders, look, don't leave Tiralongo get up to you, otherwise it could be a difficult one for you to stay away. If Movistar start riding here with 30 kilometres to go, it's still possible to close it down, although it's 4 minutes. They're a very strong team, and we've seen it before. I remember in Paris-Nice, I think it was on the penultimate day, we see him, the team, they did an unbelievable performance, and they are a strong team when they put their tactic in motion and want to ride on the front of the peloton.
4:10. Our gap. It's the latest time check that we've got. Scrappy caught the sun a bit, hasn't he? And Marco Pinotti just behind him, the Italian time trial champion, and is a very good all-round rider. Well, as a time trialer, Sean, I mean, he's not an exceptionally big man, is he? That's what makes him quite a good all-rounder, especially he's a good climb, a fairly good climber for these sort of steady climbs. He's not a huge guy.
No, well, you can see that he's a tall guy, but he is, a lightweight. And he is, a good climber. He's, and as we've seen in the past, like a lot of the big, tall guys, pretty tall, and they can climb very well, but they are real lean, as we can see here. Capecci is certainly down to his limit. There's not any extra weight there, and when you're in good shape, these guys can climb really well, and he's pushing on a good place here, and he seems to be the strongest one at the moment of the three.
4:06. The gap is not extending particularly, and I think you might be right, Sean. There may be some vested interest in the team classification behind. It's a good point. We haven't seen them riding on the front of Movistar, but it's a good point to raise this. Sean, just explain for those people watching bike racing, and it's reasonably new to them. They're watching the Giro d'Italia here. In what order of importance do the jerseys and competitions happen in a Grand Tour?
Well, of course, race leader, and here on the Giro, the pink jersey, of course, and that's the one everybody dreams about wearing and want to get it. And then you go on down the classification, the points classification, the mountain classification jerseys, they're important, and then the team classification comes into it. And some teams take the classification a bit more serious than others, and depending on what team as well. If you're in the race like Contador, Saxo Bank, their race leader, they've got the race leader here, they have a firm hold on the overall and looking like they can win this race with Contador. Well, they're not interested in anything else, and they just work for that. But it goes on down then, and the teams that are not really up in the classification, in either main classifications, overall, mountains, points classification, the team becomes an interesting one. And you start looking at it in the final week, really. You see how the race develops, and getting into breaks, sometimes that can get you into a good position, the team classification. And if you're in there with the final week and you have got the team to do it, and I think if you're up there anyway in that final week, you certainly have the riders, and then you start concentrating on it, and you look at that, you look at the classification, and then the breakaways. You have to be careful, because if there's a breakaway of 10 riders and the team which is second in the team classification have a man up there, and you're the leading team, you haven't got anyone, then you have to be careful, because if they take a number of minutes, that's where you can lose out your team classification. So it is a little bit of looking, and I think at the moment Tira Longo is thinking of that as well. He was hoping to get across here, because that would really put him into a real good position in the team classification if he could have got on the climb. He got into the break, and there was a lot of riders in the break, so not too difficult if you're riding well to get into it. And a Tira Longo, of course, on the climb, that's where he could come across if he was given the opportunity. But it looks like the three out front are working very well together, and he doesn't seem to be getting any closer at the moment.
Big respect to Gianluca Brambilla, who's actually not very far behind the leading three still. You see them on your screen, but if we get a wider shot, you'll notice that Brambilla isn't too far behind. He's been working very well. This is where we start to get very steep here on this mountain, and somebody will begin to suffer here. It's 9% plus at this particular point. There we are. We're showing the route in the bottom right-hand corner. Only the one climb today. This climb of the Passo di Ganda, and then they drop down. It's a little bit up and down on the run in, but 30 kilometers into San Pellegrino Terme. Getting towards the top of the one categorized climb of the day today, then it took 67 kilometers for a breakaway to be forced with about 20 men, and that got whittled down fairly quickly before the final climb, and it is Eros Capacci, Kevin Sildrez and Marco Pinotti in that, and Gianluca Brambilla by himself chasing after them at the moment. 4:05 the gap between these three men and the peloton, containing the pink jersey of Alberto Contador. So no problems for Contador at this time. None of these riders, Sean, are any threat in the overall classification. Let's just go back to we were talking about which competitions were most important. I know that you, of course, were always looking for the green jersey in the Tour de France, which is the points jersey. Of course, it's red here in the Giro d'Italia. In your opinion, taking one step back and letting go of the emotional attachment to a points jersey, which is more important, points or mountains jersey?
Points.
Definitely.
Yes, I think the points is the one. It's it's a one that I think is a little bit more valuable than the mountain prize. But again, it depends on the teams. Some teams, if you've got the riders for the mountains, of course, they look at that, and it's natural because the opportunity is there. But I think it's the points jersey would be in the second, and then third would be the mountain classification.
Tiralongo taking a bit on from his car. Bit of a sticky throw on it, and that's the same for all of these riders in this sort of situation. Quite difficult for team cars to get to their riders here, Sean. It's very narrow, a lot of fans about, a lot of switchbacks and hairpins. Very difficult for cars to pick their times to get up there. We saw Pinotti taking a fresh bean on, but at that time he almost got swiped by his own car. Not through any fault of the cars, really. It's such a narrow space, so it is quite difficult, this one.
Yes, it is. As we can see, it's a pretty narrow road here, and for the team cars to get up, although for it, a three-man group out front, not too difficult for the team car to come here. But back in the bunch, you can imagine it would be really difficult, and you have to go to the end of the bunch and behind the commissaire's car. And at the moment, it's probably happening back there in the bunch, and because of the race being so active, we did hear that they were going along pretty much grouped together, but it was amazing that they had almost 50k average in the first couple of hours. And sometimes that's the way they ride really fast on the front end of the bunch, a little bit of attacking, and nobody actually gets away when it's going real fast. And you get to a time then where riders want to get things from the car, because in the earlier part it's going so fast, the opportunities weren't there. And it is, as you can see here now, if you imagine if you're in the bunch and to get to get the car up here, even behind the peloton, it's a big battle.
These three men have just 15 seconds of a lead over Gianluca Brambilla, who's riding very well. More difficult to ride by yourself than if you've got somebody with you. And Paolo Tiralongo is not making the sort of impact he was. He was at 1 minute and 3 seconds. He's now at 1 minute and 18 seconds down on these three men. So Tiralongo's bid to get across doesn't seem to be making any headway at the moment. The gap is pretty much identical to it was 3 kilometers ago or so, back to the peloton. Over the top of the classified climb then, the Passo di Ganda. And now it'll be a case of, can Brambilla get back on for a start? He's only 15 seconds down. We might see him just coming up towards the top of the pass there in just a second if our helicopter shot stays wide enough. There he is. So that's good riding by the diminutive Colnago CSF man. Will he be able to take them back on the descent? This is the question. And will it become 4 again? Tiralongo, though, wasn't going to happen for him.
No, I think the gap was pretty big when he went out of the rest of that breakaway which formed, and it was about a minute and 20, a minute 25 just before the climb, and then we see him going on the climb, so it could have been minute 10, minute 15, and he started to, I think, maybe eat into it a little bit, but just wasn't able to close it all the way. And I think up front they might have been told that, yes, Tiralongo was trying to get across, and they certainly didn't want him, because then it gets the team classification, could have been in the minds of the teams, and they didn't want to get into that scenario. But Brambilla is in a real good position at the moment, but can he descend? It's all about his ascending skills now. If he's a good descender, we see the little bit he was behind the three leaders, he should be able to do it if he's a good descender, and it will all depend on that.
Tiralongo at 1:22 now, back from our three leading men, so he's slipping further back. 4:23 is the gap. You'll know that's because they're going downhill rather than uphill now. And Pinotti following Kevin Sildrez and Eros Capecci. This is quite a narrow one, but well surfaced at this point. And what have we got here? Alberto Contador. What's going to happen to Contador? He's going to get somebody trying to give him a tap on the shoulder, or a pat on the back. All part of life's rich tapestry. It's not all downhill from here, Sean. It just sort of seesaws up and down now for the next 15k, really.
Yes, it kicks up a good few sections on the way down, over quite a number of kilometres. And is that going to be the advantage, to the three out front? But Brambilla, as I said, he seems to be quite strong, holding him at that on the climb, which was 9 kilometres. So it might be just the opportunity for Brambilla in some of these uphill sections in the next 10k, 8-10k, he could make it across. But I think we'll have to wait for a moment and see what sort of descending skills he've got. He is in the zone, certainly, to do it, but if he's not a good descender, well, then it's going to be always difficult.
4:41 as they descend. This is Giovanni Visconti, missing out on a win yesterday. He's going to miss out on a win today as well, even though he's ahead of this group here on the road, including the pink jersey of Alberto Contador. Visconti, I don't know what he's up his sleeve, but this is Gianluca Brambilla. Did very well to hold those three men at just 15 seconds as they came over the top of the Passo di Ganda. They're under 30 kilometres to go, significantly under 30 kilometres to go. It kicks up and down for the next 10 kilometres, and then it's a plunge down into San Pellegrino. This is just showing a little bit of a slow motion there, showing that the Giro d'Italia taking their responsibilities pretty seriously on descents now, putting a bit of crash matting on the inside of that bend. As you can see, this is a very sweeping, fast descent. And up ahead, Sildrez, Carpecci and Pinotti are pulling out a little bit of a gap from Gianluca Brambilla now. It's about 23 seconds from these three to Brambilla. It was about 15 or so before they got to the top, and Brambilla is coming down. He doesn't look as though he's quite as quick as the others. It's difficult to tell. Of course, Sean, if you've got one man or two men that are, or one man here, for example, who is exceptionally fast, it aids the other two. You've got something to aim at. You could look at their line. Yes,
you can follow the line of the rider in front of you, and we can see there are three leaders as well. They have the motorbikes out front, and that's always a help as well. The motorbike is 100 metres in front, and you can see as they go into the corner, the motorbike, the braking, the way he's using his brakes, and you can calculate on that as well how tight the corner is. If you see the motorbike brakes and then leaves go, you're pretty sure that it is, not too tight corner, and you can just, leave it go straight through. And it does help with the motorbike, and then with a good rider in the group that can descend well, you just follow him and leave him lead the way down. It does help. But again, if you're a real good descender and you want to take a bit of risk, you can take risk. And in Brambilla's situation, it was possible to do it, and I think if we had a real good descender, he would certainly see him getting across to the three leaders on the road, but it doesn't look like that. He's eating into the advantage here of our three men.
This is a chasing group which have formed. Visconti getting out the front of the peloton as we saw. He's picked up Jerome Pino and Angel Vicioso at the back here. Vicioso, who had the dubious pleasure, I guess, would be the way of saying it, or the great sadness of winning the stage on the day when Walter Wieland passed away. However, that aside, the terrain is not dissimilar in terms of the run down in towards San Pellegrino Termes, especially off the back end of the Passo di Ganda. Vicchioso likes this sort of terrain, Sean. He thrives in the lumpy stuff.
Yes, but I think the advantage for our three men out front, we had 450, I think, was roughly for Visconti. It is far too much for for them to close down. Considering the terrain as well, I know it kicks up quite a bit on the descent, but in general there's a lot of downhill here, and highly unlikely that we can see Visconti, Pino and Vicioso closing this 4-minute 30 of an advantage the three men the breakaway have got.
Visconti out to make a point, really. I would have guessed, Sean, yesterday he feels, or at the time he felt, was robbed of the win. He made an public apology to the crowd today, I guess to everybody else as well. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Luca Sinta had him in the bedroom afterwards and sat him down on the bed and said, "Now listen here, you were in the wrong, Giovanni, and tomorrow you're going to go and tell everybody that you were wrong. Think upon that." I would imagine there were a few fairly blunt words said. Vicchioso comes to the front as the bottom left-hand box is our three chasing men, including Visconti. I'm not surprised that the director is focusing a little bit on the Visconti trio there after what happened yesterday. That is Gianluca Brambilla. These are our three leading men on the road. They've got over 4.5 minutes. Marco Pinotti, Eros Kepeci and Kevin Sildrez, and Visconti, having made a point, is now dropped from here. Ah, well. I think he's just maybe clearing his nose. He's going to get back on there. Not quite sure what they're doing. I'm not quite sure what Visconti hopes to achieve other than show his face and the national colours on the telly box again, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's difficult to know exactly why he went into the attack on the final climb there on the final kilometres, really, because they were over that 4.5 minutes behind. Unless he wasn't aware that the break was as far out in front, and sometimes the radios from the director sportive to the riders when you're in the mountains, the reception not good and you don't get the messages, and that is possible that Visconti thought that the breakaway wasn't as far, and you could see it happening because there's a lot of riders in between. We had Tio Longo in there between as well, and a number of riders on the breakaway that were coming back on the climb, so maybe that he wasn't exactly sure what way the break and how far the break really had got out front, and decided to go on the attack. And it looks like now that he's realised that 4.5 minutes is not going to happen, and for me it seems that he's just going to ease up and be allowed to be pulled back by the peloton again.
Gianluca Brambilla still can't see his former escape colleagues. Up ahead he had a gap of 15 seconds when they went over the top of the mountain and stretched out a little bit, but still riding well. These are our three leading men. Eros Kepeci is the man at the back. Kepeci, interestingly, started off his professional career with Liquigas and then went to Spanish teams. He rode with Scott Beef, if you remember them. Didn't last very long because they morphed into something else. Fuji Cerveto and then Futon Cerveto last year. And then finally back to Italy and into Liquigas again this year. He's had a sort of mediocre year, really. Had a couple of top 5 places, mainly in the early season. He got a top 3 in one of the stages in the Vuelta San Luis in Argentina, which a lot of riders use actually now as a warm-up race. It's quite a hard one. 20 kilometers to go for our peloton, for our race here on stage 18. Under the 20k to go banner, giving it full gas. Ooh, that's a dodgy corner to run wide on Eros. That really is. Inside of that corner, absolutely packed with dust and rubble and a little bit wet as well. Really taking it as tight a line as possible. Have to watch that when other riders come down there as well. If they take it very, very sharp on that bit, they'll run across a lot of rubble there. It's not the fact that they're on the loose stuff, it's of course the transition between the grippy stuff and the non-grippy stuff. Less than 20 kilometres to go. Back to Brambilla now, 51 seconds. Looking good for these three, Sean, in a straight out fight at the end. Who do you fancy out of these three?
Three non-sprinters, of course. It will be an interesting one, and when we see the advantage they have over 4.5 minutes plus back to the group of Contador race leader, the main bunch, and we have Brambilla, of course, at 51, but I think he's going to lose a bit more. So I can see that they're going to be playing about a bit and a bit of attacking in the final. The best one, I think maybe Seal Dryers might be just a little bit faster. But again, at this stage in a big tour, getting to the end of a third week, it's all about how much you have left, how much energy, and that's an important part. So the ones who are a bit fresh on the end, he can, I think, out of this group, because there isn't anybody who's a good sprinter as such, and it's all about how much energy you have left in the end of the stage.
So Derez, I think, will probably be the most aggressive. Carpecci looks as though he has oodles of strength still inside him. I wouldn't put it past Carpecci to get this one. Pinotti, on the other hand, well, he can turn in a reasonable turn of speed, but as we say, none of them are sprinters. But I'd go for Carpecci if they get that. Although Silderez, as they say, is a little terrier of a rider sometimes. 18 kilometres for our breakaway men. They are Marco Pinotti of HTC High Road. There is also Eros Capecci of Liquigas, and the final man in the breakaway is Kevin Silderez of Quickstep, the Belgian rider. All the control being done by Lampre, and Liquigas, of course, just sitting there at the front. They're not concerned with pushing anything on at all. They have a man in the breakaway. Lampre, of course, won a stage yesterday, and they must be extremely pleased about that. A sprint stage, no less, from a small break. Diego Ulisi, a double world junior champion, taking the win yesterday, and it was very entertaining as well. Pinotti, Capecci and Silderez. He's right ungainly, but effective. John Cheshire writing in on the Twitter feed, spokesmen saying mixed fortune for the Downing brothers. Russell doing well in the Giro. Dean kicked out of the Russ for holding on to cars. Oh dear. Oh, by the way, you've kept your yellow jersey for Anne Post in today's stage of the Russ. You must be pretty pleased.
Ole! Well, it's going well down the Ross, and they're having the team, the Unpost team is having a really good race, and holding on to the jersey, that is a good job and well done today.
As opposed to holding on to cars, which is not a good job. $17.5K to go, and we said this was not a straight run down into San Pellegrino Terme. It kicks up and down and up and down. It's only the last 14.5 kilometres or so that is pretty much a downhill sprint. And then they run alongside the river into San Pellegrino. They turn hard right over one of the bridges, about 1.5 kilometres out. So 90-degree right-hander followed by a 90-degree left-hander. They run along the other side of the river until about 350 metres from the end, and they go back across another bridge. So another 90-degree left-hander followed by another 90-degree left-hander, turning back on themselves on the far side of the river. So might be a little difficult at the end. Now this rock slabs, the rock slabs you can see here, they're not really cobbles. Sort of cobbles, is the sort of thing we will be seeing at the finish as well, and thankfully it's not raining. Giovanni Visconti out by himself. I think it's a pretty canny move actually of Visconti. He's got out there and he's got himself on the telly. especially after yesterday. No, I don't think there's any real strategy to it at all, to be fair. This looks like Pinot was with Visconti a while ago. This is the chasing group, so they said. Remember, we've got Gianluca Brambilla in between these three men here. Marco Pinotti, Eros Capecci and Kevin Sildrez, then Brambilla, and then the chasing group looks to only be Jérôme Pinot now, Sean.
Yes, and I don't think he's chasing very
really
much. He's just floating down there, and interesting to see where Visconti is. I reckon he is behind Pinot on the road, and they're all there's Pinot, yes. So Visconti may be in front of Pinot here, and they're just leaving it roll down the descent, and they're going to get pulled in because I don't think there's anybody here going to try. They know that the advantage for our 3 leaders is much too far. Brambilla is the one who's going to keep on giving it everything because he's just over the minute behind, but again it's not going to happen for him. He's not going to make it now, and it's between our three leaders, and interesting the run in there. We could see there as they came through that little small village, it kicked up a lot, and if you had a big bunch of riders here, it would be a very difficult descent, because if they really pushed it on, the big bunch of riders would be splitting a lot, and it could be a risky one for some of the general classification riders to stay in here. But an interesting final, and a good final for a breakaway out front.
Yeah, very good. Pecky in the middle. Pinot trying to take a drink while he can. It's you have to keep your wits about you on this one. As Pinotti moves over, Kevin Sildrez is not wanting to let Eros Capecchi get away there.
Panicking a little bit,
Yeah,
Sildrez. I think he's with the 2 Italians, of course, and he's a little bit nervous already that one is going to leave the wheel go, and jumped inside of Pinotti there very quickly. And if he's starting to panic at this moment, it's not a good situation, because then he's going to do a lot of chasing. If they start attacking here, he's going to think that the Italians are going to be working together, and when you see him a little bit nervous already, it's not a good pointer.
He is fairly aggressive. There is Visconti, just about to be hauled back in. 132 back to Gianluca Brambilla, so it's all down to these three here. Sildrez he's really piling on the pressure here. Had Pinotti and Capecchi behind him. Whee! Down they go. It's major quick, this one. Really is, and twists and turns. And this is the longest descent into the run into San Pellegrino. It's about the last 4 kilometres, pretty much on the flat. Capecchi just touching Sildrez and saying, you're going to get back in there or not. This is a quick one, Sean, this one.
Yes, it is a fast one again, but a good descent. As you can see there, the corners you can go pretty much straight through. Probably doing 65, maybe 70k here, and in the dry conditions it's a nice descent, and they're getting down as well, and they're not really pushing it on. They know at the moment, I think it's under control. Now it's just keep on riding here, keep the advantage to the lone chaser Brambilla at that 1 minute and 30, and no concern about the bunch, because they have much further back and no action in the bunch, so the 3 will be aware of that. So now it's all about calculating with the guys you're with in this final, the sprint, and how exactly to get it right. And yesterday, I suppose, when you look at that sprint, a few of the riders got it wrong. Bacalans, of course, my choice was about a kilometre and a half to go.
I wasn't going to remind you.
I still find it hard to understand what was the tactic, because he took it up at about 750, 800 metres from the finish, and started riding on the front. It's the worst position to be in. You're a loser definitely there, and he was with riders. The champion of Italy, those riders, their experience, so you just sit on the rear there and just follow and wait for your occasion to attack maybe from behind, but he made a total mistake. And again, today Sealdra up here, will he get a little bit nervous? It looked like a moment ago that he was starting to get a little bit nervous the way he, moved around Pinotti very quickly.
Pinotti is the best placed man on the general classification, but he's nearly 30 minutes behind the pink jersey of Alberto Contador. So no real problems for these guys here. They're just going to continue on their way. The showdown will come then in the big mountain still. This is Kevin Sildrez on Eros Kopecky saying, well, you're going to get back in the line, or maybe he's just saying be a little bit careful. He was rather close to that wall. Interestingly, Paolo Tirolongo has caught Gianluca Brambilla, and the two of them are now descending together. 6:35 back to the pink jersey. It's a proper old breakaway day today, Sean. I mean, there must have been a lot of riders looking at the route book and have been probably looking at this one for a number of days.
Yes, and when you look at the route book today, there was the 100 kilometres pretty flat, so it was all about the break getting away, and I think there was a lot of riders hoping the break would go very early and they get into a steady pace in the bunch, and the team of race leader controlling the situation. But unfortunately it didn't happen, and it went to the point where we had 85-90 kilometres before the break got away, and the average almost 50 kilometres per hour average in the first little bit over the 2 hours. So it was a difficult day for everybody, and I think from the time the break got away, there was a lot of riders saying thank God for that, it is gone and we can settle down to a pace. And now we can see back in bunch they are really just keeping it rolling because the gap is growing out. Pink jersey at the moment 6:38 down.
3 men on the road leading: Eros Kopecky of Liquid Gas, Marco Pinotti of HTC High Road, and Kevin Sildrez of Quick Step. 2 Italians and a Belgian in this trio up front, and behind now Paolo Tirolongo and Gianluca Brambilla are chasing together. Some of the other riders who were in the original breakaway that went away, we're getting a little bit of more information about them. Carlos Sastre is now 4 minutes and 30 seconds behind the leading trio. Here's Tirolongo doing the donkey work here. He's the faster descender. He's caught Gianluca Brambilla. And you saw how much time Brambilla was losing, but look at the way Tirolongo is going down here. This is helping Brambilla. He's got a man to aim at. Vicchioso has now been caught by the pink jersey group. My word, Tirolongo's a little bit quicker than Gianluca. And Brambilla is at least having somebody to aim at here. It's amazing how much quicker he can go. This is good descending by the Italian Tirolongo here. 1:36 is the gap. I wonder, well, that's the gap we're getting at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if that's come down a little bit, actually. We'll have to see when we get the next of our real time checks. 1:34. It's not coming down greatly, but it's certainly a few seconds here and there, Sean.
Yes, it's coming maybe down a couple of seconds, but 1:35 or 1:38. 8 kilometres to go. It's too late for Tirolongo to make it, and the reason he's pushing is the team classification. They're going to take a bit of time here from the team in second in the class event, the Movistar team, so that's the reason he's pushing it on. And every little bit of time gained, because in the days to come, if if some of the riders in the team of Astana are suffering, which we heard this morning, they seem to be a few of them not feeling very well. They could have difficulty holding on, because Movistar, I think they have, you know, a good block of riders there, and in the two mountaintop finishes they could be still a danger one, although they are at 4:13. But in the in the team classification, in mountainous stages, that's not a lot.
Paolo Tirolongo urging Gianluca Brambilla on. Come on, let's keep going. The gap is too big to bridge now, with 7 kilometres to go, and it'll be the cool heads out of these three that take the victory today. Kevin Silderez is a tad bit aggressive, and the man who looks most cool and calm and collected to me is Marco Pinotti. He's got plenty of experience. However, I think the win today will go to Eros Kopecky, but we shall see. Got a third in a stage in the Vuelta San Luis at the beginning of the year, but that's the best result he's got, if you don't count the team time trial here in the Giro d'Italia, where they came third. What news have we of the Tour of Belgium, Sean, while we're here?
We hear that Greipel has won the stage, and he's the overall leader at the moment. So another good day for the Omega Farm Lotto team. Philippe Gilbert, I believe, in second in the general classification. And it goes on, and we did hear, you know, Gilbert winning. Did he win yesterday? We hear, or
Gilbert was second yesterday.
Second, and he
Vestra won the.
Yes, so you know, coming back after a month, because he almost had a month. I was reading there a number of days ago, Gilbert after the classics, and coming back, and you know, in that sort of level of fitness right away, it's amazing that you know, he can keep it up. So you know, he has to be keeping training at quite a high level, but took a bit of break from racing, but certainly, you know, in real good shape for the moment.
Plenty of commitment from Brambilla and Tirolongo, especially Tirolongo, having had to work his own way up the mountain and not making quite as much ground on the riders in front that he hoped to. He descended well, caught and started working with Gianluca Brambilla. I mean, he could have gone straight past if he wanted, Sean, but it's a wise move to have somebody, because you knew you've got this flat bit at the bottom.
Yes, yeah, but it's number of kilometres in the end to keep pushing on, and if you're riding there on your own, or if you have somebody with you to share the pace setting on the front, it's a huge makes a huge difference. And Tirolongo, you know, just he's going to use work with Brambilla and just get him to do as much work, because it's Tirolongo really is the one who wants to, you know, keep as much time ahead of the bunch now. That's what he's riding for here.
7 minutes back to the pink jersey group of Alberto Contador. Less than 5 kilometres to go for our leading trio here on stage 18. The run-in today, as we said, is quite interesting. They run at the next big roundabout, the roundabout after the 3 kilometres to go banner. They take the left-hand fork and run alongside the left-hand bank of the river Brembo, as in breaks. And then once they've run into the southern half of San Pellegrino Terme, they take a bridge. They take a right-hand turn across the bridge onto the other side of the river, the right-hand side of the river, and run along that for a while until they've gone under the 1 kilometre to go banner. When they get to the 1 kilometre to go banner, about 250 metres from the finish, they turn hard left across another bridge, and then hard left again, almost running back down the river. Well, they are running back down the river in towards the centre of town once more. So it's quite an interesting finish, a little bit technical, in a case of who has the experience and the legs here. It was tailor-made for a breakaway today, Sean, this stage.
Yes, and at this point of the race, so many riders, you know, a long ways off in the general classification. It's a one where a breakaway is going to succeed, and maybe that's the reason we went to around the 80 kilometres before it managed to break, and a group form with any sort of an advantage out of the main bunch. Probably a lot of riders thinking, a lot of teams thinking, well, there's certainly going to be a breakaway, and always a number of riders want to be in it, and when they attack off the front, there's always somebody chasing because they are not in it, they haven't their team in it, and the reason being it took so long for the break to form, the real break to get away, as we see Pinotti pushing on here, and Sealed Ryers, he is reacting very quickly, and I think he's going to be in a situation here where we could see a lot of this, where Sealed Ryers will have to do quite a bit of chasing.
I think we've got 2 Italians and a Belgian here, and I think the 2 Italians may well think about, in the nicest possible way, working over the young Belgian here, because Sealed Ryers is a little bit nervous. Clearly he wants to chase everything down. Pinotti basically put on the time trial spurt there.
And if you start early doing it and you show that you're a little bit nervous, well, they're going to play that card definitely against you. And Sealed Ryers has to use the tactic, that the 2 Italians here, they will both want to win here. There's rivalry between the teams, rivalry between the Italians themselves, and try and play that game and not chase, because if you start doing it, they will walk you over, and they'll say this is an opportunity to walk this guy really over. And as we can see now, he's just going to sit in Capecci's wheel, and that's what Sealed Ryers have to do. I think you have to play the card, bluff it a bit, and try and get the Italians just to mark each other as well.
Marco Pinotti moves over, and Eros Capecchi comes through on the inside. Sealed Ryers is he's the man who is going to get done over. They're all looking at each other now. Still got 2 kilometers to go, and there's lots of looking going on. I think Pinotti might well have another go at time trialing it to the end in a second. Wait for the acceleration. Just not really accelerating super hard at the moment. Just stay there, stay there, stay there. Maybe he doesn't have the legs anymore. Maybe that's the one effort he had. I thought it seemed to me as though it was just testing him out. But unfortunately, it did mean that Kevin Sealed Ryers shows his hand, as you say, Sean, very early on. 1,800 meters to go, it says, on that board on the side of the road. At this point, they are going to encounter the switching from one side of the river to the other. Just a little bit through this roundabout here. And Pinotti is being pushed along at the front. He has to try and see if some of the others could do some work. Have you decided who's going to be the man for the day today, Sean? 1,400 meters to go.
No, difficult to know for the moment, and we're going to see, I think, this cat and mouse a bit more. Pinotti is going to ride for so far here as we go to the 1.5 kilometers to the finish, but again, I think he will start. I'd be surprised if he doesn't start, just looking about and slowing it up here as we start to come into the more technical cornering the run into the finish.
This is the first of the bridges that they cross. Got time to play, you see, at the moment. 1:36 was the last gap we heard from Brambilla and Tiralongo to these 3 men here. Now they're running along the right-hand side of the river. And when they go under the 1 kilometer to go banner, you will see it. Just here, 1k to go. They run straight down towards the river now, which is meandering across from their left. They're just swaying back towards them. And it won't be long now before they have to do a hard left turn along another bridge. Pinotti, well, he's still leading them. He said, not such a good place for him to be, but at least he knows he can be first into the bridge then.
Yes, well, maybe he's going to walk the tactic. The final corner is very close, and just keep on rolling here and really up it as they come to that final corner. As we can see the bridge there as they go take the left one. If he has studied his run-in very well, he could just try and do that. But he has to up the speed here because he's going to get taken from behind if he doesn't start to up it pretty quickly as we come into that corner to go across over the bridge. Yeah,
I still think that Sealed Ryers is going to be the aggressive one and he'll launch the attack first, but I think Eros Capecchi is the dangerous one here. We shall see. 450 meters to go. Marco Pinotti still sitting at the front of these 2, and as you say, Sean, if he doesn't up the speed pretty quickly, maybe going through this corner now, maybe he'll try to wind it up now before we get into the final left-hander, which is almost upon the finish line. Here we go. Who's going to go for this one now? Opening up goes Marco Pinotti. Eros Capecchi has come around Kevin Sildrez to sit in the second position. Oh, Capecchi's opened it up quite quickly here and moved across the road. Capecchi comes to the front. Has Sildrez got anything to come past? Now goes the sprint from Kevin Sildrez. Eros Capecchi gets it. Pinotti is second, and it's Kevin Sildrez was third. Well, in the end, it was easy for Eros Capecchi. He got in the right position, coming out of the bridge, Sean, on the last corner, and just powered his way past Marco Pinotti.
Yes, and we see him. He just moved up on sealed rails and into the corner, and made his move at the right time. But I think Capecchi was the best sprinter, because sealed rails, he was in a good position. Even that final straight, we could see him behind Pinotti there, but just hadn't that power to start to come by at all. And Capecchi was the strongest one in the end.
Well, Paolo Tirolongo has 3 times now. That's congratulations. Don't worry, it's not a crash. It's congratulations for Eros Capecchi. 3 times Paolo Tirolongo said, why don't you come down past and do some work here, to Gianluca Brambilla, who steadfastly refused to, and Paolo Tirolongo kept shaking his head. Tirolongo is going to jump him at the end. He's been the stronger rider, and he's opened it up from a long way here. 200 meters for Brambilla. He's trying to stay ahead of Paolo Tirolongo, and I think he's going to, actually. Tirolongo won't be. Will he be able to come past him? No, not quite. 4th then for Gianluca Brambilla, 5th for Paolo Tirolongo. But a win for Eros Capecchi and Liquigas here in the Giro d'Italia. Riders still coming in. Oh, they'll be coming in for a long, long time in San Pellegrino Terme. This is Losada, who's in the breakaway that forced its way from the peloton at 67.5 kilometers to go. This is the Carlos Sastre group with Beckelens, Bram Tankink, Jesus Hernandez, Oscar Gatto, a number of riders in here. Tankink bringing them up to the line, and that looks like Russell Downing in there as well. Coming in at 4 minutes and 5 seconds. Well done to Russell Downing for staying there. Will he take this one from this little bunch sprint for the minor placings in front of Oscar Gatto? Gatto likes his wheels, doesn't he? I was going to say Gatto likes his cake and eating it, but there we go. Tankink being taken the other way. Come on, Russell. Good lad. Go on. Oscar Gatto not being able to get the better of Russell Downing. He gets the best out of that little sprint. 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Never say die. These 2 fighting Yorkshire spirits. That's what we like to see. Well, the win today came for Eros Capecchi ahead of a duo of riders who came in with him. It was Marco Pinotti and Kevin Sildrez, the Belgian, and in the end it was fairly easy for Capecchi when they got there. This is the leaders group, the pink jersey in the middle of that group of riders coming in now. And this is Marco Pinotti.
Tutti avrebbero voluto andare in fuga. Sono stato bravo a prendere davanti a scelta di città alta. Sapevo che il gruppo ci poteva rompere.
Everybody wanted to get into the escape, is what he was saying.
Prendi i corridori, ci siamo guardati tutti, nessuno voleva andare avanti. Sono stato bravo a portare fuori altri 5 corridori.
Well, he's always got a good smile on his face, but he's absolutely right, Sean. Everybody wanted to get into the break today at 67 kilometres.
Yes, I think we could see that because it took so long for the breakaway to form out of the bunch. Everybody was just very active and all teams thinking and trying to get into the breakaway.
And riders will be scattered all over the place today in the best possible way. By that I mean that they're not under great suffering. They'll just be coming in whenever they can. Here is the overhead shot of the finish. It was Marco Pinotti who got first into the bridge and first out of it and opened up as hard as he could. It's a shame, really. He's not a sprinter, so you could see how much quicker Eros Kopecky was. Sildraez really didn't have anything to come by Pinotti at all. He got onto the wheel, could have got a bit of a slingshot, didn't have anything to come past him.
No, I think for Sildraez that final straight was very short, and he's not that explosive type of rider. And the big surprise for me was that Pinotti riding on the front, when you look at that final corner so close to the finish, you have to go into that real fast, and Pinotti, you know, his time trialling ability, he should have really upped the pace into the final corner, go around it at, you know, full speed, and then it's a bit more difficult for the guys to come around you because there's not a lot of time to do it, and he didn't really, you know, try that one at all, which was a surprise to me that he, you know, didn't give it full gas into the final corner.
Well, Eros Kopecky was capable of just coming past him and having a bike length to spare as well. Pinotti doing, as you say, going through the bridge first, and none of them really came actually flying through it. If I had a rider like Cyril Dessel in here, he would have gone flying through that bridge. He likes that sort of thing to finish.
Well, if we had Russell Downing there on that sprint,
yeah,
we would have seen a real sprint, and we did see out of the group the way he was sprinting. Unfortunately for Russ, the climb just that bit too difficult, and the position it was in not working right for him. Although he did make it into the break today.
He did, and he beat that man in 9th place, Oscar Gatto there, 8th for Russell Downing. Really excellent riding for the man from South Yorkshire. But the win today for Eros Kopecky in the end. He bested the two men with him, Marco Pinotti and Kevin Sildraez, to take a win here in the Giro. And very prestigious it is too. Super weather once again in the Giro d'Italia. Tomorrow we re-enter the mountains. And it's a finish on a 3rd category climb tomorrow, but I think it's going to be very tough indeed at 209 kilometres. We're on at 14:45 CET. That's 13:35 if you're back in the UK, 1:45 in the afternoon. Stage 19 from Bergamo, 209 kilometres, finishing on the climb of Macugnaga. And tomorrow, Sean, a completely different race again. We'll see the big favourites trying to open up again, I would imagine, tomorrow. Or will they leave it for one more day?
Difficult, depending on what way the race, takes off from the very beginning. If there's a lot of attacking, and we could see, an aggressive race, and if the opportunity, I think, is there for some of the riders further down the general classification, get themselves into a breakaway and move up in the general classification. But I think, Scarponi, Nibali, Gadre, these are the ones which are really going to be marked by Contador, and they're not going to be allowed any time and to get into any breakaway at all. And it's the riders who are down maybe from 8th, 9th in the general classification further down.
Eros Kopecky takes the win here.